Hey everyone, and welcome to English News in a Minute. Some transportation is fast. Some is slow. Some transportation is convenient. Some is inconvenient. Some transportation is expensive, and some is cheap. In this story, you will not hear about good transportation. You'll hear about the worst kind of transportation. But before we get started, here are some expressions you need to know. California. California is a noun, and it is a state on the west coast of the USA. Oregon. Oregon is a noun, and it is also a state in the northwest part of the USA, just north of California. Seat. Seat is a noun, which means the part of a chair you sit on. Stop. Stop is a verb, which means to not move. All night. All night is an adjective, which means from sunset to sunrise the next day. Get out. Get out is a verb, which means to exit a place. Say. Say is a verb, which means to speak. And now, back to our story. Where is Mrs. Zimmer? Mr. and Mrs. Zimmer are in a van with their 3 children. They are driving from California to Oregon. It is late at night. Mr. Zimmer is in the front seat. He is driving the van. Mrs. Zimmer and the children are in the back seats. They are sleeping. Mr. Zimmer is hungry. He stops at a fast food restaurant. He goes into the restaurant. Mrs. Zimmer wakes up. She is hungry too. She goes into the restaurant. Mrs. Zimmer walks into the restaurant. Mr. Zimmer walks out of the restaurant. Uh-oh. Mr. Zimmer doesn't see his wife. Vroom. Vroom. Mr. Zimmer drives away in the van. Oh no! He drives all night. In the morning, Mr. Zimmer and the children are in Oregon. Woohoo! They get out of the van. Where's your mom? Mr. Zimmer asks the children. We don't know, the children say. Where is Mrs. Zimmer? She's at the restaurant in California. Oh no, poor Mrs. Zimmer. The end. Now here's a question for you to discuss with your friends and family. Comfort, convenience, speed, price. All of these factors are important when we make a decision about what mode of transportation to use for travel. As for me, a helicopter would be the best. How about you? What is the best mode of transportation for traveling? And here's a little bonus fact for you. After a vacation in San Francisco, Mr. and Mrs. Zimmer and their 3 children piled into their van for the all-night trip home to Eugene, Oregon. It was somewhere along Interstate 5 that Mrs. Zimmer got stranded at a fast food restaurant. I never saw him leave, Mrs. Zimmer told the Associated Press. I guess he didn't see me either. I sat down and ate my burger. I looked out the window just in time to see my van going up the ramp onto I-5 with my husband and my children in it. Needless to say, I was shocked. Mrs. Zimmer waited at the restaurant for 3 hours, and then she took a bus home to Oregon. She arrived in Eugene at noon the next day and was reunited with her frantic husband. He told police he thought he had left her in Redding, California, but Redding police found no trace of her. Actually, she was stranded in Red Bluff, 30 miles. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join us for our next English News in a Minute.